We've seen the exact same thing this year as in the past, just a tremendous amount of innovation, a lot going on in the AI space.
I think the industry is moving more towards text-based navigation.
The biggest thing that it drove us in the beginning was people have different needs.
The way this has changed our business is that, again, like I said, we can have discussions with our data.
You are listening to the AI with Maribel Lopez podcast, or AI with ML. If this is your first time listening, thank you for joining. The AI with Maribel Lopez podcast is brought to you by the Data for Betterment Foundation. This podcast shares the stories of the people behind the new world of data and AI. What are they creating, and why does it matter? If you like this episode, please subscribe so you can easily find the podcast again. You can find the video version of this podcast at youtube.com at AI with Maribel Lopez. You can also share your feedback and ideas with me on X, also known as Twitter, and LinkedIn. All links are in the show notes. Extended show notes, episodes, and transcripts can be found at lopezresearch.com/podcast. I hope you'll enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome back to the video podcast. I'm Maribel Lopez, the founder of Lopez Research, and this is AI with ML, AI with Maribel Lopez. We are at the AWS reInvent show. It's always a great show every year with a ton of innovation. We've seen the exact same thing this year as in the past, just a tremendous amount of innovation, a lot going on in the AI space. And I'm actually really excited to be joined by two guests, one from AWS and one from GoDaddy. We have Travis Muhlstein from GoDaddy, who's sitting to my left.
Thank you.
We have Tracy Daugherty from AWS. And we were here today to discuss Q for Quicksight and really what's going on with some of the change in how we've introduced AI into what we're doing with business intelligence, what we're doing with data-driven organizations. Fundamental change happening in the space, but maybe to level set for those that may not be familiar. Tracy, could you tell us a little bit about Quicksight and then Q for Quicksight specifically as well, so that we know what we're talking about for the rest of the podcast?
Yeah. So Quicksight as a whole is a cloud-based BI tool that we created from scratch about 6-7 years ago, and its whole emphasis is how do we share insights from data that's in databases, data warehouses, data lakes to the normal human to make good decisions from data. And we do that by sharing that data visually, either through dashboards or through pixel-perfect reports. We also, and we'll talk to it a little bit more through Q, of asking questions of the data and having it come back with a visual answer, or the ability to embed this into your application. So our real goal and intent is to make sure every user in an organization can get value from the data in a way that they can consume it.
Now, one of the great things about this is we've got both the product folks and the customers in one panel. So we actually get to talk about somebody who's actually using the technology. Travis, could you tell us a little bit about what your journey has been and how you introduced Quicksight into GoDaddy?
Certainly, and very appreciative to be here. You know, it's been an interesting journey for GoDaddy. We're all about evidence-based decisions. It's all about the outcomes that we can arrive at with any of our business stakeholders or with our customers. Mm-hmm. You know, as we think about everyday entrepreneurs and small businesses, how do we accept their feedback in a way that we're able to forecast what their needs are as a product, as a company. And so we've looked at our journey. There's been a number of stages that we've walked through. And we were talking a little bit before the podcast on this. We have this notion of a magical staircase. And that magical staircase starts with the magical human. We have so many business analysts that what do? They're doing a lot of day-to-day analytics thrown over the fence from business partners, and then they have to stand up these dashboards. It's not a best use of their time. We've moved up into process and into automation. With Quicksights and Q, we're now able to move into magical data and AI. So instead of looking at dashboards that are 7 days old in a slide point, SharePoint and your slides that we're forecasting and using with other executives, we can now work real time with Quicksight and Q to talk about what our forecasting is, to run diagnostics in meetings with executives, to understand what our customers need as a customer first company, and then what do we do in the business and our products that we're building to both understand our customers and to meet their needs.
So it's not your first rodeo in terms of thinking of data and how to leverage data in an organization. So from that perspective, what was different about using something like Quicksight? You started to talk about this notion of moving to real-time data and being able to do more real-time decisioning with executives in meetings. Other impacts on the company, how are you thinking about, what we were talking about a moment ago, this concept of getting data to everybody, more people in the organization. Just give us a little color about what the change was from, say, where you were with Tableau to where you are today.
That's a very interesting question. We started out in this journey just a number of years ago. We were all on Hadoop systems. Yeah. It was all local. We had to do this major migration over to Amazon, and that opened up, AWS opened up a lot of tool sets that we could now leverage. And I think that transition was that, with using our dashboards, over 4,000 dashboards. It was just every different business request that came in from any business operator to any analyst
dashboards.
Over weekend, all those dashboards it was the dashboard of the day club. And really, when you think about it, ultimately a dashboard and your data are tools. They're tools to understand your customer better. And that's what we believe at GoDaddy. How do we leverage that? We get over 2 billion, it's 1.2 billion. We'll be at 2 billion this year, but signals from our customers every day. And
tremendous
when we
amount
have
of data.
all that data coming in, we need to coalesce that data. We need to understand what that data means, what our customer behaviors are, what their journey cycle is. And so I think when we look at where we're going with Quicksight, it enables us to have a discussion with data live instead of just looking at dashboards or different business operators off in what we call a local maxima, not paying attention to the broader whole of the business or our customer need. And that's what Quicksight and Q starts to give us, that real-time understanding of our customers, so we can have real, and sometimes very challenging conversations with each other to talk about what we need to fix, what we need to change to address our customer needs.
Yeah, and you've talked about unlocking the
data. I was going to say there's a key point to this on the product side that enabled this as well, because we were natively built to be in the cloud. Now, a lot of people go, what does that mean? What it really meant was we're completely serverless, and so therefore we auto scale based upon demand. And so Travis and company can have 10,000 users using it at one time, 1,000, one or two, and you won't see a performance difference because we auto scale on the back end. And that, believe it or not, was the trick to enabling us to go out to all users. You had to have the performance to do that. Otherwise, you would just be saying it and not living it.
You'd be saying you're going to be data-driven, but nobody can access the data.
But nobody could access it or be frustrated.
Or they're accessing 4,000 different dashboards.
Yeah, or they're accessing that and go through that. And to give just a simple stat on that, even within Amazon, we have roughly 350,000 users weekly using the product in a very unmanaged way, meaning it just works and going through that. So it does that at scale. And so for me, when I hear Travis's story, I get very excited because it justifies the kind of work that we intended to do.
What have you learned from so many people in the organization using it?
Well, there's so many learnings that you can go through.
How did that drive your innovation moving forward?
The biggest thing that it drove us in the beginning was people have different needs. They really have different formats and needs that they want to look at things. And first and foremost, they want to understand their business if they can. They want to find the key data point. Even to Travis's point, probably found out that you have all these dashboards, but many of them didn't have information that was
really useful or meaningful to the business.
For them. Yeah. And so how did you get that formulated that way? The other thing is, and this is where Q came about, was where people didn't want to go ask their analyst for every change. They just wanted to get insights from the data. That was something that was missing from the dashboard, which is always true. In fact, the dashboard usually triggers a question. And so when we started asking questions, we had a great set of learnings that the average human asks the same question 7 different ways. And so you think about that from a machine, you've got to interpret it to make sure you interpreted it correctly and gave them the right answer. And so there was so much learning from that you'll see in our new offerings that really describe that coming to truth. And so when I talk to customers over and over again, go through that, like, oh yeah, it resonates. It's an experience they've had.
From where you're sitting right now, having used the product for a bit, what do you see changing? How do you see it changing the business or what you can do as a business?
Oh, I'm just excited hearing what Tracy's talking about. The way this has changed our business is that, again, like I said, we can have discussions with our data. And, a lot of times there can be bias within those discussions. You're always seeking for the data elements that you want to find. But it's, and that's been part of the challenges, I think, at GoDaddy is that we've always tried to find what those data elements are and what the business impact are, what those outcomes are. How do we think about driving the business forward on that? And this is what is very exciting about Quicksight, is that as we've been using it, it's allowing us to do deeper diagnostics. So it's the business analysts have saved many, many hours each week just in how they're looking at the data, how they're thinking about their forecasts, how they're thinking about their diagnostics, and being able to tell the business not only what's happening now and why it's happening, but what's going to happen in the future, and how do we get to the points, what actions do we need to take. So on this journey, it's been this opportunity for us to have that dialogue with the data. We'll be in exec meetings and having a lot of discussions, and oftentimes, funny enough, we'll come out of those meetings with more questions than answers.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so
back on Tracy's point, right?
Yep.
You
Right,
get a piece
to
of
the
data,
point.
it's more questions, more.
Well, then you have to go across 4,000 dashboards and try to tie that all together in the local maxima. They're not relating to each other. Quicksight gives us an ability to stretch and look across broader data sets in real time. So we can pull together what we think about overall high-level business actions are that we can take to meet our customer needs. And I think that's the big change for us, is that we're moving from this very latent set of material that would take us weeks or months to understand what our customer behaviors are and what our customer needs were, to down to seconds or minutes in meetings where we can go into the meeting and have an open question and say, let's take a look at this, and go live into Quicksight into the queue and drill down into those answers. It's just fabulous.
Tracy was talking about that with insights earlier, the difference of what insights are now. Please.
Yeah, well, this taps into actually 2 announcements that we made earlier this week. One was in our Q&A ability to ask questions, and we give you a multi-visual answer, which is very powerful. But part of that, we've added the ability to bring in unstructured data. And unstructured data is documents, right? And Word documents, other things. So BI tools historically, the only thing that they looked at was data in your databases and data warehouses, which we call structured data. Mm-hmm. Adding this piece adds an augmentation to that. To Travis's story, could be somebody's looking at a dashboard, they see this data, but they also got a research document that came in earlier in the week, and we can plug these 2 things together to give a more profound impact to that. The second thing that we announced earlier this week was a thing that Q's new ability, which we call scenarios, which is this ability to ask a question and have it go and do analysis for you. And this isn't just viewing data, it's actually doing analysis, and it'll help find the pieces of data in the system for you, bring it together, and then give you a plan of steps 1, 2, and 3 to walk through to do that analysis. And the beautiful part about it is we didn't build it only for the analyst, we built it for the end consumer as well, who oftentimes understands that data, doesn't understand how the data sits or where it's organized or anything, but understands what it means and can do that analysis from there. And so they can do things of side by side of, say you wanted to do a pricing change and you wanted to go your options between A or B, do a side-by-side analysis of what impact it would have on the business and what impact it would have on adoption. And these are 2 things that are pretty exciting that go back to Travis's point of how do you enable that end human to do better analysis from the data versus just viewing what's coming in. So we're pretty excited about that.
Do you mind if I riff off of this?
Absolutely.
Because it is amazing, and I'm very excited to hear about, in the course of this week, to hear about unstructured data, and then being able to build on top of scenarios. I have another category of employees, or machine learning scientists. They do a lot of data wrangling, and what are they trying to do? They're trying to find the right data elements on which they can capitalize and build our business machine learning models on top of. And then by extension, a lot of the generative AI systems that we're building, we just launched a Arrow feature to our customers, which is all AI and machine learning based, to enable our customers to get at actions and build on their craft in much quicker time. And the biggest challenge that we faced is this unstructured data and the lack of scenarios. The amount of time you have to put into that would be 80-90% of building a machine learning model.
So this is an accelerated flywheel effect that you're going to get out of it. Yeah.
It's exponential acceleration.
Yeah. So Travis, you've obviously been working at this for a while. You've had data at many different companies. What are some of the lessons learned as you've moved through this Quicksight process that you could share with the audience if they're about to embark on a journey? What should they be thinking about? How should they approach it?
Use Quicksight. Thank you.
Wow, you can't get better marketing than that, folks.
I know. There you go. The customer is saying that, but we're an experimentation, learning-based company, and so we put a lot of effort into our statistical significance, and we make data-driven decisions based on what our customer needs are. So we iterate very quickly. And I think our first step with Quicksight was just jumping in and using the product, understanding it. There's some learning that comes with any new product, even with Quicksight, right? But the opportunities there is that as you start into it and thinking about the ability to do in-memory caching, right, with Spice and being able to get to real-time access, building out, instead of dashboards, we're retooling this into thinking about outcomes. What are data outcomes or evidence-based outcomes that we can drive into? And so I would say, getting started with Quicksight, you still need to do some format. What is your dashboard going to look like? What's the message you're trying to convey? What is your persona, right? Who are the individuals who are going to be reviewing that? And then, there's a lot of interesting things. You had Q topics where you had to plan your topics up front. Now with scenarios, that starts to make it a little bit more of a hybrid. You don't have to define everything up front. It's like defining data schemas up front. That's why unstructured data is so interesting, because you can't schematize.
You can't predefine that.
Data. You don't predefine it. You have to build your ontologies and your object sets after the fact. So now that Quicksight is introducing a lot of these concepts, it's allowing us to make sense of the world. Because we think about the world in terms of objects and the relationships between each other, and then what the outcomes are between that. So those objects can be business, they can be engineering related to help developer efficiency, they can be, help product managers, they can help any number of disciplines to perfect their craft at real time. So if I think about my journey through data, this is something that's now democratizing and becoming even more accessible to everyone. We're granting Quicksight across our entire company that access so that people can dive in and start to learn more about our customers in real time.
Yeah. And this is an interesting, bringing up a good point. And by the way, I'd love to hear it, because it was kind of the goal of this. If you have the right architecture, if you have the right performance, if you have the right capabilities, and then if you price it correctly, you can deploy it to everybody. And it turns out if you miss any one of those pieces, you can't deliver on that mission. And so we do all kinds of things and Travis would know this, we have 4 different price points for different user types, ranging from $3 a month up to $50. We, as an organization, we let the companies and customers decide who gets what. And they have those different capabilities. Based upon that, we honestly have, I think, changed the way BI has been done, in the sense that before it was a special tool for a subset of people in the company. And we wanted it to be a tool for everyone in the company and get those capabilities to go back to get the things that he's talking about.
To move beyond just that one magical human and up the stack, right?
How do we get to the top of that staircase?
Exactly.
Magical
exactly.
AI.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. And I think that's part of the power that we've seen with introducing AI is moving beyond everything needing to be hard-coded, moving beyond the dashboard of the day, really delivering on the promise of real-time, trying to make it so it's more accessible and you can use more natural language to query things if you don't happen to be someone that's deeply data embedded. So I think we have a lot of opportunity moving forward over the next couple of years. Tracy, I'd like to ask you, what's next?
Well,
It's a big week.
yeah, it's a big. You know, I always joke with my team of the week before reInvent, everybody's working on these things of these big announcements that we've tried to work on.
No turkey,
this year.
just presentations.
And then the week we get back, they're like, okay, what's next? And then I always joke in that next week, I don't know the answer, but I do 2 weeks later. It just becomes obvious because you get the feedback. But in this case, we do. The things that we talked about, including structured and unstructured data and scenarios, are the beginning of these steps. And I'll give you a good example. The scenarios you'll walk through and you'll do this investigation and you'll do this analysis and come out. The next question is, we delivered data stories earlier in the year. We would ultimately want that to tie into that directly, where, okay, I got the result, now I want to create this in a data story and share it with my execs. So that will be a big thing. The other thing we're looking at, and Travis touched on this a little bit, is topics and data prep and all those things. How do we even push that even further? That's a place still where organizations, and I think you would agree with me, probably spend more time than they want to preparing their data, getting it ready. And how do we shorten that time window as well?
God, data prep has been the bane of our existence since we've started this discussion. It's getting easier, but it's still, not the easiest thing. And
well, and I will also say preparing data for natural language and Gen AI is different than preparing it for dashboards. And so,
absolutely.
And it's not necessarily harder, it's just different. And so how do you simplify that effort and take away some of that load? So that's a thing that I would love to have.
Okay.
Greatly reduce.
On your holiday wish list.
Oh, I don't know.
We're going to close with the holiday wish list of what you'd like to see next, or what you'd like to deliver next at GoDaddy.
Well, I think the industry is moving more towards text-based navigation, right? We look at all of the outgrowth of what we've seen with generative AI. My wish list that, and I've had discussions with the Quicksight and Q teams, is the API, opening up the APIs. We have internal tools at GoDaddy, call it GoDaddy Content as a Service. We have many LLMs hosted in that. And so our customers, will use their Arrow brand for features that we'll send to them as well and publish. But internally within the company, we want to have that dialogue with data. So wouldn't it be great? Now picture this with me, Tracy.
Yep. Picture a world.
Picture a world where I can type into my chat box and I can say, I want to find out a forecast XYZ for this particular business that meets this genre of my customer set and will drive this much revenue and this much engagement. And then to have, through API integration, a Quicksight dashboard build immediately inline, where I can now go and play around with that dashboard in real time, all based on a conversation that I started with the data. And then I can drill deeper into that through Q and other metaphors so that you complete the full cycle. What that would be, it just would be amazing, is that you can start either from a visualization perspective, or you can start from typing in your intents into a chat box. Either way, you're able to visualize what that data truth is going to tell you, right? Removing all the biases that you might have, and get you to the truth on how you can address your customer needs. So that would be my dream world. That's what I'm continuing to partner with Quicksight on, and excited to see in the future.
And that's honestly to me anyways, it's the fun part of the job. We get to partner with folks and companies like Travis and others around the world. And when you can do these capabilities that address where they're trying to go, and then go back and see the progress they made, it just makes it a great experience for all involved.
It's very gratifying to see the fruits of labor, right?
That's right?
You build something, he uses something, you get great information, and everybody's happy. It's a win-win for everybody. Travis, Tracy, I want to thank you for your time, your insights, your attention to detail for what's happening next and making, data really resonate within organizations. And I can't wait to see what you both build next.
Awesome.
Thanks
See
for
you
having
next
us.
year. All right.
See you next
Cheers.
year.
Thank you for listening. Additional content can be found at lopezresearch.com/podcasts. Until next time, wishing you all the best.